yeah,
I'm
he
back.
was clearly. I just don't understand why they ran him in the first place. The whole thing made no sense. And then to have no primary and just stick Kamala in there,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden pretend that she's the best thing ever, and like this idea, like complete flip of her being the least
wild.
popular vice
Mods
president
are
ever,
asleep.
always
Praise
sticking her foot in her mouth,
Yeah.
always
Shabuya Shapamadoo, Yagoogagoo, Ra.
Mods are asleep. Why are mods asleep? What happened?
saying crazy shit. How dare we say Merry Christmas? Remember that one? Like, what the fuck is? What are you saying?
Yeah.
Like, joy is bad? Merry Christmas is bad?
Legitimately, when the campaign consultants told me, hey, we're going to hit this line because Kamala Harris came out in favor of taxpayer-funded sex changes for illegal aliens. And I remember thinking to myself, come on, you guys. Like, she didn't really say that. It's taken out of context. And then I go and look at it, and I'm like, holy shit, she actually said that. And she really was like the very worst version of what the Democrats were producing in 2020. The thing is, they were all doing it because that was the incentives of the party. Like, if you remember that debate where it was, do you want taxpayer-funded Medicare for illegal aliens? Which, like, Medicare is the program to provide health care to the elderly that people pay into for, like, you know, your entire working life. You see your little Medicare tax statement. And the idea that we were going to give taxpayer-funded health care to illegal aliens, it was just insane. It was a 90-10 issue, but their party in 2020 got kind of taken over by the radicals. And I think actually maybe you're seeing a little bit of that happening right now, where it seems like the radical organizations, the nonprofits, the donors are pushing the party in a direction that most of the voters haven't gone in. Like, you ask why Joe Biden was the nominee, and I'll say something in defense of Joe Biden.
I've talked about this at length, but I strongly disagree with that. I think that what the DSA is doing, I think that this is their moment. And I think that they're blitzing the party. And I think that they are doing a very good job at convincing a lot of these longtime Democrats that they should be further left. I think that you're seeing a lot of these Democrats that have traditionally supported establishment figures say, enough's enough. You know, it's a decade later, we still have fascist Trump in office. You know, Democrats are just dropping the ball every single chance they get. I think that they're getting radicalized. I think what the DSA is doing is very effective. I don't think that they're being like kooky. I don't think that they're, you know, too wild for the average Democrat. The average Democrat loves AOC. You know, like, I think that's after a decade of Trumpism, the entire country is ready to just accept polarization. And it's getting to this point where both sides know that it's either like, this is not literal, okay, but like kill or be killed in the sense that it's like we need to win or else like we're fucked. And I think that a lot of Democrats are being convinced. I think a lot of Democrats are saying, yeah, you know what? Out with Kamala, out with Hillary Clinton, with Chuck Schumer, you know, whoever. In with AOC, in with Mom Donnie. And I think it's extremely effective. I think that heading into 28, it's going to be so radical that the Democrats will be more radical than Vance. Vance will try to lean into the center. And I think that Dems will get, well, Vance or Rubio, either one. They're kind of like interchangeable in this sense. Vance or Rubio will lean into the center. And you're going to see a lot of these like disenfranchised MAGA people. I think that you're going to see them go for just whoever's more radical. And I don't mean radical in the sense that like, they're going to be like Antifa and all black blocked up. I just think that Dems understand that they have to have interesting policies, and GOP is going to try to bring us back to the neocon days, to the pre-Trump Mitt Romney era. That's what I see.
Biden. So, like, was he the most effective politician? No. Had he had 2 brain surgeries? Yes, and clearly had shown the negative signs of aging. But he was kind of the only candidate, if you go back to 2020, who could hold together like the reasonable middle class black American in the Atlanta suburbs with whatever is going on the far left of the Democrat Party. And I think this is sort of the issue their party has. I mean, to be candid, our party has its own coalition problems, and it's always tough in a 2-party system to hold everybody together. Like, I think about this a lot.
big black
I think it's
bloc,
really tough on the
especially
Democrats
when it's
because
plowing my
the
girlfriend.
core of their party, like
Thank
the
you
most
for that,
important voting bloc
Sneeko.
in the Democratic Party is middle-class black Americans. Socially moderate to even socially conservative, maybe a little bit more economically populist on certain business and tax issues. You know, they don't want to give tax breaks to major corporations. They also don't want to trans the kids. That's the base of their party. But then you've also got like the crazy people, and you have to kind of hold that together. I think the argument for Biden was he was one of the only people who could hold that together, even though he was an awful politician in his own right, even before he was like old.
Well,
The
it's
president says
because
this all the time.
he was Obama's vice president.
Exactly.
And, you know, he's established. He's a known name. And
Yep.
for the people that were kind of casuals that weren't really paying attention to politics, like he's a proven commodity.
That's right. He doesn't read as a crazy person to
Right.
the general electorate, even though, you know.
I got hairy legs. When he would tell stories like, "Oh, I'll tell you about corn pop." Like, what?
Oh,
the fuck is
man.
going on?
The thing I couldn't get over Biden is just bad staff work, man. The way that he ate ice cream. I mean, it's like
The way
you know,
that he
we could
ate
bring some of this
ice
stuff up, but
cream?
it's like they would get him eating ice cream in the most ridiculous, suggestive way imaginable.
I never even paid attention
Oh
to
my
that.
God! Like
I never-
Okay, we're gonna. The way that he ate ice cream dough. There's just another funny thing on Twitter. I gotta see this. Okay, not that. This. The mayor on the one person he refuses to talk to, this Fuentes kid, that's Hitler. Nick Fuentes is genuinely Voldemort to Jewish N-words, LMFAO.
You know, talk to them. They're, as I always say, everybody's a monster till you talk to them.
Is there anybody you wouldn't talk to?
Of course, that Fuentes prick, people like that, like actual
Nick Fuentes, yeah,
Yeah,
who's an activist or whatever.
he's a Nazi. He's you know plain. I mean, look, nowadays everybody's
He's a Nazi.
crazily anti-Israel, but that guy is. You know, when they say Trump is Hitler, such a dumb thing to say. First of all, counterproductive. Also, he's not Hitler. But this Fuentes kid, that's Hitler.
Dude,
know-
that's so tough. Oh my gosh. Holy tough.
Oy vey, he's a Nazi.
That's so tough. Dude, that's so fire. That actually dude, like how it like zooms in on his face. Dude, that is so hard. That Fuentes kid. That's Hitler.
Can't wait for a new Nick edit to use that
Say
clip.
Trump is Hitler, such a dumb thing to say. First of all, counterproductive. Also, he's not Hitler. But this Fuentes kid, that's Hitler.
That's
you know-
dude, that like the pause after too, that's so tough. That will most definitely go hard in an edit. That will go so hard in an edit. I love when these characters say shit like this. Oh, Jimbo said literally like the exact same thing. He did. W Jimbo. Bro said the exact. I didn't even see that. It's true. I love when these people say shit like this. Like they don't understand that for our generation, him saying this is just like an endorsement. He might as well have just endorsed him. That just goes so hard.
Not Hitler. But this Fuentes kid, that's Hitler.
That's Hitler. Bass drop. Heil Hitler starts playing. Let's freaking go. We're back.
W snitch.
Oh, the
So
ice
such
cream.
bad optics. So, okay, so there's a clip I want to say from the 2016 campaign where somebody is
He says
campaigning
Vance is
in
like a
Iowa.
retard. He
Like,
does.
the Iowa State Fair is like one of the main things you go to when you're running for president, and they give somebody a corn dog, and somebody eats the corn dog, and it becomes like a major news cycle for a long time. And I will never forget in 2024. In 2020,
This is how immature we are.
I know. You gotta have a little fun sometimes, though. But in 2024, somebody is holding up a sign at the Iowa State Fair. I think it may have been one of Vivek's event, Vivek Ramaswamy's events, and the sign says, "Eat the corn dog, you coward."
I'm stroking my Fuentes.
The best
I got
political
lotion on
signs
my
I've ever
Fuentes right
seen.
now.
That's
I'm a
funny.
Fuentes freak man,
That's
for
funny.
real.
Yeah, you'd have to be a very manly man to be able to confidently eat a corn dog.
Yeah, I don't know that I could do it, Joe.
I eat them. They're good.
Yeah,
They
but
taste good.
are you I
No.
love corn dogs. but
I've been photographed,
You've
I'm
been
sure.
photographed eating a corn dog?
I'm sure someone has.
What if?
I've eaten corn dog.
Much-
The odds
Dude,
are.
Worst thing
JD's
that I've
laugh
read.
is just
I try to
wild.
eat my corn dogs. That's between me and my kitchen.
I'm not scared to eat a corn dog. I just think it's funny that people they're so afraid of being anything that looks like a dick. You can't. Like bananas, corn dogs.
You gotta be. You gotta be.
I eat bananas. Don't you even dare think about it. Okay? Let me eat my bananas in peace.
I'm thinking about it.
No, don't think. I just said don't think about. No, you can't think about. No, you're not thinking about it, actually. Don't think about it, okay? Don't even think about it.
Be careful when you're in politics. This is an
Yeah.
optics-based business here.
What are those popsicles? The ones that yeah. I get it. I mean, but it's just like that's how crazy we are. That's what weirds people out. The way
Yeah.
someone eats a hot dog.
That's
Like okay,
well, that's where we are, man.
yeah.
I
It's the difference between the crazies and the real reasonable Democrats is so stark to me. And it's also with the right. It's like the parties are always defined by the worst examples of the right.
That's right. Yeah.
Or of the left. Whatever it is, whether it's Patriot Front or whether it's Antifa.
Okay, so who do you think is the worst example of our side? Like, who do you read about on our side and your reaction is, holy shit? And don't say J.D. Vance. It's going to be a very awkward interview.
No, I'll tell you.
I'm screwed with you.
Well, the
I'm
people
screwing
that,
with you. I'm just
one
screwing with you, Joe.
thing, I had James Tallarico on the podcast, and one of the things that I think he has a really good point about, even though I know you're Catholic and you're very religious, putting the 10 Commandments in schools, I don't think is the right way to do it. And this is a guy, Tallarico, who
That's the most extreme thing that he can think of.
was in seminary and is very Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And he just thinks that even though he believes in the 10 Commandments, if you're just only representing the Christian faith in these schools, you're forcing your religion into other people's lives, and that this is going to push people away from Christianity rather than encourage them to pursue it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you never want to force things on people, and I
Need
do.
some bongs
I
in
think
every
one
classroom,
of the core
dude.
Christian
Yeah,
contributions to
dude.
Western civilization is the idea of freedom of religion. It's actually very much a Christian idea because you recognize the dignity of each individual, and part of recognizing that dignity is that each person has to find their own pathway to God. You can't force this on anybody. I don't think putting the 10 Commandments up in school is like forcing things on anybody.
But it's public schools. So, I mean, if you're going to do that, why not put Buddhist scripture? Why not put, Muslim stuff?
This is a slam dunk for JD Vance.
You could make an argument
If bro misses this, oh my gosh, holy slam dunkage.
why you should have a bunch of different religious tenets in schools.
I think in the Supreme Court there actually are a lot of different sort of historical, cultural, legal documents that are up there. And I want to say that Moses coming down with a tablet is one of them. But I think there actually are other cultural and maybe even other religious elements of this, like where you recognize that a big part of sort of the law-giving tradition in Western civilization is is some of these religious texts, not exclusively Christian religious texts. Obviously, some Jewish. There's like an important contribution from the Muslim world in this. So I guess I don't think of it as exclusionary, while also recognizing that America is a society. Our founders were people who were very much influenced, even if they weren't Christians. A lot of them, of course, were, but were very influenced by Christian culture and articulating American law. So my argument would be, even if you're not a Christian, like, does seeing the Ten Commandments
important Muslim contribution? Yeah,
let me put it slightly different.
Yeah, the Jewish thing is a little bit expected, considering who JD Vance is. Yo, what is he talking about with important Muslim contributions? What even is that? What could he possibly even be referencing with that? Bro is yapping, just say it's a Christian nation. Yeah, 9/11 Schwartz. Like, what is he even? I don't even know what he would say if he was pressed. Joe's not going to press him on that, but if he were pressed, if he ever does another TPUSA event, that's a good question to ask him. In the Joe Rogan episode, you mentioned that there were some great Muslim contributions to America. Can you name them? That's a W question right there.
Does seeing the Ten Commandments force religion on a non-Christian child? I mean, my argument would be no, and I'd illustrate this by saying, well, there are all of these ways in which you actually could try to force religion on a child, right?
Well, it's not the worst way to force religion on a child, but to have it and not represent any other religion. This is Texas, by the way.
Sure.
So what he's talking about was that there's these Christian nationalists, these guys that are very wealthy, that are trying to fund Christian schools and trying to defund public schools or any other kind of religious school. And what they want to do, and they passed this, to get the Ten Commandments in all public school classes. And he's fundamentally opposed to that as a Christian because he thinks it's going to force people to have this in their class, and it's going to push people away from Christianity.
Dude, this is such a slam dunk.
I just don't see it that way. I mean, I guess if
I kind of agree with them.
I hear you, but if I'm a non-religious student and I'm sitting in there and I see the Ten Commandments, at the very least, I think I can appreciate it. I mean,
okay, but what if you're
I talk about this in my book. I went through sort of
what if you're a Hindu? What if you're a Muslim? And and you are seeing
you're in a Christian nation. Like, this is literally all you have to say. You're in a Christian nation. You're an immigrant in a Christian nation. Literally all you have to say. Dude, I talked about this the other day. This is why Republicans, the GOP, this is why conservatives in general just always lose every debate ever. Because they're always way too scared to just go to the root of what this debate is about. This comes down to, is America a Christian country or not? That's what this conversation comes down to. And he's going to sit here and he's going to go back and forth with Joe and try to walk on eggshells. It's a Christian country. That's all you have to say. And the GOP voters would love that. Even the more libtarded GOP voters, they don't really have an issue with this. Like I said, this should be a slam dunk. The fact that he's walking on eggshells with this is actually kind of wild. Considering the whole like Christian nationalist flavor that Vance has tried to go for. Dalestein says that's too much for Fatty to admit. See, yeah, like, how cooked is that? That's so cooked.
That represented, but not your faith.
Well,
it's a public school.
First of all, I think that
public school in a Christian nation.
I'm pretty sure Muslims, I'm not hardly an expert on Islam, but I think all of the Abrahamic faiths recognize the Ten Commandments as like a significant thing. But I think if I was a Hindu looking at the Ten Commandments, I mean, again, it's hard for me to say this, right, from my perspective, but I certainly went through an atheist phase in my youth. And what I would see that as a non-religious person or a different religion is I would say this is like an important cultural element of the Western civilization, which is the foundation of the classroom that I'm sitting in. And this idea that the law comes and is sort of above any man, even if you don't believe in God yourself, I think that's like an important concept. I mean, if you look at the 10 Commandments, probably 8 of them are something that I would hope that everybody would agree with, even if they're not themselves religious. So I guess here's my view on it. Like, I would not be offended if I sat in a classroom as a Christian, or if my kids sat in a classroom as a Christian and saw, a religious text that wasn't Christian on the wall. I would encourage them to see that. No, I'd encourage them to see that as a learning experience. Try to understand
what if it was
things.
from the Quran? What if a bunch of
I guess it depends on what it was, right? If it's like something crazy, but no, I mean, if it's something that is like,
why would it ever be something from the Quran? Again, it comes down to the root of this problem, dude. All these people are way too scared to say that this is a white Christian nation. That can be your defense in so many different debates, and you can hold that line because it's obviously true. It is objectively true. You just have to have the balls to, get called racist by some like libtard a few times, yeah, he's such a pussy. It's crazy. This is a wild. I'm actually surprised by this. Not by like how pussy he's being, but that should be a slam dunk. That should be something that he's nailing. JD Vance fans would love if he said that this was a Christian nation. Like, I don't know why he's not just eating that up. That's like wild.
Like, culturally interesting. I guess I don't have a problem with my kid reading something.
The problem is it's mandated. Like, if you have a classroom and the teacher is Christian and the teacher wants to have it in their classroom,
because of his wife, probably.
Maybe that's one thing. But if you're mandating that you're going to have the 10 Commandments in classrooms, that's a different thing, because now you're pushing Christianity on kids, and this is Tallarico's position. And as a Christian, he's saying, I think this is going to push children away from Christianity.
So I understand what he's saying.
That argument is just not true.
Part of living in a society where you have different people with different perspectives, but you do have, Christianity is the majority religion of the United States. It is the religion that was extraordinarily influential to our founding, to the constitutional principles.
Yeah.
Again, freedom of religion is itself not really a liberal concept. It was originally derived from a Christian idea about free will and the dignity of the person.
Razor beard.
I think part of that is that you accept that you're going to have exposure to different things, and if a state legislator in a majority Christian state it's not like they're putting the 10 Commandments in front of these kids and saying, you have to read this and write it 500 times a day. They're exposing kids to something, and I'm comfortable with kids being exposed to a lot of different things. I think that's part of living in a society where there's a free exchange of ideas. And what I worry about with Tallarico's sort of perspective here is again, I'm not saying that I don't want kids to be exposed to anything that is outside of the Christian canon. Like, I actually want my kids exposed to things. I write about this in the book, that I think it's important to have a grounded enough faith that you can engage with a lot of different ideas and still ultimately, sort of hold on to your Christian faith. But isn't part of just living in a like pluralistic democracy that people are going to be exposed to different things? And I would kind of put it on Tallarico in a slightly different way.
He wants his kids exposed.
That for a long time in this country,
it does sound like
there
that,
were
doesn't
actually
it?
Supreme Court rulings that
does
said
sound like he wants
that
the kids
you cannot
exposed.
pray in a school, even a student organization led by the students, or that you cannot put the 10 Commandments up, even a teacher who chose to do it in their own classroom. And so I think you're always kind of trying to strike this balance, given that we have the First Amendment in this country, between allowing the practice of religious faith in public spaces and possibly forcing religion on other people. I think you have to strike that balance the right way. I guess I just say is that if the 10 Commandments being in a classroom is the thing that you think is forcing religion on somebody, was he equally offended when the 10 Commandments were like quite literally prohibited from being listed in a public building?
I don't know if he was offended by that or if he was opposed to that. But the idea of being exposed to it is one thing, it being mandatory is another. And to mandate that in classrooms is a different thing because you're clearly
What is
promoting
blood even
Christianity.
waffling about?
And his position is that promoting Christianity in that
So
way
true.
is going to have an opposite effect on children. You're pushing it on them. Instead, you're not just exposing it to them, you're pushing it on them. And especially if you're pushing it on children who come from a household that has a different faith.
I guess I just think the balance in our country the last 30, 40 years has actually been much more in the other direction, which is that we try to completely remove religion from the public square. And I think that poses its own problems because, people practice their faith in all kinds of
But
ways.
don't you think that that's the responsibility of churches and synagogues
Sure.
and wherever that, like, if you want and in the community, if you want to promote religion,
It's the
promote it that way.
responsibility
But
of the
promoting in
nation.
public schools should be
The
just
responsibility
educational.
of the
And if you're
state.
in a religious class and a class is teaching about religion, that's a different story.
Well, you're right. It's certainly the responsibility of churches and synagogues and mosques and so forth.
Of
but I
the
also
future
think that,
nation.
the
True.
late Supreme Court Chief Justice William Rehnquist sort of said this, that if your approach to religion in public life always and everywhere is to push it out of the public square, then you're actually embracing a religion of your own in the public square, which is secularism. You're just
Right.
taking one religion and replacing it with secularism. And I guess what I'm saying is I'm kind of comfortable with people of different faiths sharing the public square together. But part of that is that if I'm in a 95% Christian community and my local city council wants to put up a nativity display on Christmas Eve, I'm okay with that. And that was actually, like, for a long time in our country, actually prohibited.
Yeah.
And so what I think is that we sort of put ourselves in this frame in this country where we said every public display of religion is somehow illegitimate. But I mean, I don't know. I try to live my faith in a way that's consistent across different spheres of my life. I don't preach to people. I don't like walk into the White House, tell my employees, you need to follow Jesus as your Lord and Savior. I just try to live my life in a way that hopefully
I don't like what he said before that. Like, we should be able to pick and choose, like I said, as a nation, what is acceptable and what is not. It doesn't have to be so black and white like that. And, if you take that same logic, JD Vance would be okay with, the Muslims taking over Times Square and bringing out their rugs and going shabuya with all the lights shining down on them. You know what I mean? Like, that's where that logic ends up. That should not be a thing. We should be able to have Christian symbols up. We should be able to have the 10 Commandments. We should be able to, show Christianity in this country. I think that Islam should be behind closed doors. They are 1% of the population. They are here as immigrants. Keep that shit in your mosques. And I literally talked about this like a week ago. I'm chill with them having a few mosques, okay? I think that that's like such a non-problem. It's such a small percentage of the population. They can have their mosques. Keep it within the mosque. Okay, you're in a Christian nation, you're in a white nation, go to your mosque, do your shit, whatever. But we don't want to see that in Times Square. The name America came from Christian roots. It's obvious that this is a white Christian nation. And I think that that's a very fair position to hold. I think that's that's even a charitable position to hold. I mean, there's many of you guys that would probably be like, remigration, fucking get them all out of here. That we should make it illegal.
Thanks for conceding, Kaffer.
Okay, very good. Yeah, there it is. But I think that's a very fair position. And I think that's a very realistic position. It's a pragmatic position, right? I do think that it's completely unrealistic to be like, yeah, we're going to ban Islam. I think that's also kind of dumb to even advocate for that just because it is so unrealistic. Because there are millions of Muslims here. There are millions of them. And I think it's totally fine if they want to go to their mosque, whatever, do their thing.
Look what they are doing to Christians in their own countries.
I say fuck them.
Why did Goofy turn into a sassy black lady?
Oh, you white monkeys.
Why did Goofy just
Go back to Europe.
Okay, you're
America is
just
ours. Shabamala.
Okay, Fugger just totally ruined it. That was like a hilarious TTS, and then Fugger had to ruin it. Yeah, I don't know why Goofy turned into a sassy black lady. That was crazy. We need to add a voice like that? Yo, should we add a voice like that right now? I can add a voice. Okay. I know how to do this now, so we can do it quickly. Sassy black lady voice.
My friend came to the door. She said, well,
There's too much background noise. We need like a clear clip of a sassy black lady. And then I can turn it into a voice. Who's like a sassy black lady we can get a voice from?
The jelly beans up my ass, lady.
That's so okay. You gotta like send me it. I don't know. I've never watched That's So Raven in my life, so I don't know what you would want me to do with that. Sassy black lady character?
over is a partner who doesn't. The baddest I feel. What's going on? House live. This hoe trying to take deep breaths. Yes.
Breathe when you die, honey.
Okay, it's too much cutting back and forth. Too much cutting back and forth.
You're like a black woman in hindsight.
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I?
Too short. Okay, chat, you're gonna have to help me find something. If you find something that's like a minute long, a minute to a minute and a half, I can make the voice. The one you want is the jelly beans up my ass lady? What? What?
I said, excuse me, motherfucker. Do you like jelly beans? He was like, yeah, but not the black and the green ones. Motherfucker, who said I had Easter jelly beans? To make a long fucking story short, I put a whole bag of jelly beans up my ass.
See, that is exactly what I want. I think that we're going to need a little bit more than just 30 seconds, though. I can try it. Here, I can try it, but I think that we're going to need... Is there like a longer clip of this lady? The background sound might be a little bit hard, too. I'll try it. Let's see what happens, okay? We will see what happens. Let's go here. Create new. What should her name be? What should the voice name be? Alabama Leprechaun YouTube video.
Tenrio.
Okay, but that's... I swear, you guys just, like, don't listen to me sometimes. It's a bunch of different people. We need a clip that's, like, 30 seconds, or really, like, a minute to a minute 30 of one lady just speaking to make the voice. That's, like, a whole ass, like, interview. There's a lady... Yeah, it's not enough time. Maybe TikTok. That's actually a good idea. Let me go TikTok. This is also taking so much time. I don't even want to do this anymore. Oh my gosh, it's asking me to log in now, dude. Can somebody just like find it for me? So okay, one of you guys can just find it for me. Okay, one of you people can like help for once. Make one of the freeloaders find it. I'm going back. That's a really funny idea. I'm going back. One of you guys can do it, okay? One of you guys can find the clip, send it to me, and then I will... And then I'll do it. I can do it fast now? Yeah, I can. Just send me the clip.
Makes people a little curious about what motivates me and what inspires me. But I also don't think that the expectation should be that we tell religious people they're not allowed to be religious in the public square. Because I think that's what we've done over the last 30 or 40 years. I guess... we can agree to disagree. I see the text.
Bro, I get paid to do my job, not yours. Okay, we're just going to ban Ghost Eagle. Okay. I'm just kidding.
This thing is
although you should be banned.
Correct that.
But I'm just kidding because I'm a nice freaking guy, okay? Let's do this. What's that one command? Watch time. Ghost Eagle 88. Zero minutes is crazy. Six days. Bro has 6 days. That's approaching 200 hours. That's approaching 200 hours
Ghost
that
Eagle
Ghost
88, by the
Eagle
way.
has been in chats. And as of yesterday, he was unsubbed. You can do something for the Russellians, Ghost Eagle.
I agree.
Of any good way to live your life, whether it's Christianity or any other religion. I think
Boneless Tony has 16 days. Thug Tug, 13 days. Augmented 12 days. Who had the most watch time again? The last time we did it was yeah, damn, Minecraft is up to 25 days. Holy loyal, dude. Minecraft is so loyal. 25 days of watch time. Rilzer redeeming the VIP badge. Let's freaking go. Here, I'll get that for you real quick. W VIP badge. W. Didn't you? I thought that you already have it. I guess not. Okay. W Rilzerg. WVIP Real Zerg.
That's definitely the way to do it. But
That counter does
point
not
is that
work.
this is being
It does. It's case sensitive. Type in the caps. Cat respector. 3 days, 8 hours, 5 minutes. Boom.
promoted by very wealthy people who are Christian nationalists who want this to be they want it to. What is going on here, Jamie? What do you got? Bible stories become required reading in Texas public schools. Yeah, see? Well, now you're taking it to another level. So this is June 26th. This is very recently. That is that kind of thinking and that kind of mindset is what bothers me the most about some Republicans.
I see what you mean.
Numo Groper just gifted 1,000 kicks. I don't know how
Dub.
these ended up in my kick balance. I didn't buy them. Here you go.
Thank you, Numbo, for the 1,000 kicks. W Numbo. Kick gives out free kicks sometimes. They've been doing that like quite often recently, actually. Eddie's been giving out like a bunch of kicks to random channels. So, yeah, hey, everybody check your kick balance. Hey, if you got some kicks, send them my way. W Numbo. I appreciate it.
And then there's people that, again, they live their life in a very beautiful way, and they follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, and they're very admirable, and I think that's very attractive, and it makes people very curious about that religion. And I think that brings people to Christ, and I think it brings people to religion.
Sure.
But then there's people like, did you read that?
When is Sneeko going to be on JRE?
That came from at the start of the Iran war, where
would he ever go on? I couldn't see Joe Rogan bringing Sneeko on.
There was a guy who was an officer, non-commissioned officer, who was at a briefing, and this guy came in and was explaining to them that they didn't need to be afraid because this war was important because Trump had been anointed by Jesus Christ to bring about his return. And the way Jesus is going to return is by bombing Iran.
I did not see that report.
Okay,
that sounds pretty far out there to me.
This is the kind of right-wing thinking. So here it is. Military commander tells troops bombing Iran is part of God's divine plan. So we started getting calls in the wee hours of Saturday morning from people saying their commanders were just jubilant about this, trying to tell people, don't worry, it's all part of God's plan. They promised a 200-mile-long river that is 4.5 feet deep, filled with nothing but the blood that their weaponized version of Jesus will spill at the Battle of Armageddon, Weinstein said. But what was the one? There was an article where the guy was explaining the actual quotes that the one officer was telling him, the one commander. Yeah, but it's not that. It was very specific. It was very specific what he said.
I mean, for what it's worth, my attitude on this stuff is, I mean, first of all, as a Christian, you sort of believe that
side
everything
profile
is
is
part of
crazy.
God's plan, even things that are ultimately very terrible. I mean, you kind of have to
Hold
make
up, let me read the quote. He urged us to tell our troops that this was all part of God's divine plan, and he specifically referenced numerous citations out of the book of Revelations referring to Armageddon and the imminent return of Jesus Christ. He said that President Trump had been anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon and mark his return to earth.
Okay.
If I'm in that meeting, I'm like, hit the brakes. Hit the brakes. What?
That's where you need some of the psychedelics we talked about at the last Joe Rogan JD Vance conversation.
That would definitely help.
I mean, okay, my response,
my
first of
gosh.
all, like, obviously, do I endorse that? No. Do I think that it's important that people
Getting cut by
rein it in
Joe
a little bit?
Rogan
'Cause
as
I'm
the
sure you're
vice
right, there were a
president
lot
is
of troops
sad.
there, probably a lot of Christian troops there who are like,
Isn't it kind of nuts how yeah, people just treat JD Vance as like your average guy. He's just another podcast guest. I feel like when Trump was or just is generally on shows or podcasts, he's given respect because he does command respect. He moves like a mobster, right? He commands respect. JD Vance, people are just like, oh, this is just like having Eddie Bravo on. It's just like nobody really sees him at that level.
I'm not sure this is exactly right.
I got to pee again, chat. One sec.
The important point is, I think it's important as a Christian leader, as Christians, period. One of the things we have to do is just have humility in the face of God's plan. There's a lot that we don't understand. There's a lot that we don't get. And I think especially on matters of war and peace, the approach that I try to take is you try to make the best decisions that you can. You hope that you're on God's side. You don't assume that God has taken your side. That's a very famous Abraham Lincoln quote, and that's the attitude that I take. So for that, what I would encourage that NCO to say is, you know what? God is in control. We don't know what's going to happen, but let's pray and try to do as good of a job as we can, trusting in God. If I was speaking to a group of Christian troops, that's what I would say.
But you're speaking to a group of troops.
Sure.
You don't know if they're Christian. You don't know. I mean, you're essentially letting these people know that you believe that Trump was anointed by Jesus to bomb Iran so that Jesus can come back to
Jesus
Earth.
Come back in a fire
If
of
I was
Armageddon.
there, I'd be like, can I get the fuck out of here?
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I hear you. Look, yes, and that is the first that I have ever heard of this particular story.
How have you not heard of this and Biden's 2 brain surgeries?
Apparently, I live in a bunker, man.
How do you not know about these things?
Man, that is
crazy.
wild. Okay, here's the other thing I'll say is having heard about this for the first time just now, to your point about the media, I do think it's possible, let's be honest, that whatever that dude said, maybe it was good, maybe it was bad, has been misreported by the press. So I always have a filter on this stuff. Like, I don't automatically assume.
It's also possible, but this is the other thing. He said the commander supposedly had a big grin on his face when he said all this, which made his message seem even more crazy.
And I think that's, again, I don't think anybody should have... war is sometimes necessary, but it's never a good thing. And I think that's like a fundamental Christian principle. There are just wars, there are necessary wars. War is always something that you try to avoid.
Right, but saying that this is what's being referenced in the book of Revelation.
Yeah, dude, I think that is nuts. I also don't know that I want to confirm that this person actually said that before teeing off on it, because what that sounds to me is like somebody butchering or misrepresenting something that somebody that I know might have said.
Quite possible.
So you got to be skeptical
also
about
quite
this. That's all I'm
possible that
saying.
you got a really loony guy who is a Christian nationalist, who is a commander, and who is in this position where he's actually excited because he does think that this is a holy war and this is going to bring back Jesus.
Well, that's certainly possible. I mean, America's got 330 million people, and we've got a lot of people who believe in a lot of things, but I can assure you that we don't encourage people to talk like that. And again, all I can do as a Christian leader, I'll look into that story certainly, but all I can do as a Christian leader is talk about how I think about questions of war and peace, which is we try to do the right thing. We try to figure out what it is that is consistent with Christ's moral teaching, and we try to, comport our foreign policy with the cause of justice. And that's what we try to do, recognizing it's always going to be imperfect, but I don't think that we should ever have an attitude towards war like this is a great thing, I'm going to grin and smile about that. All I'm saying is I'm skeptical that anybody took that approach because the media misrepresents everything.
Do you think that the way that you just described it aligns with our campaign in Iran?
Well, I think that the goal is certainly good, which is to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. And I think that there are obviously a lot of questions about how best to achieve that. There's both a short-term and a long-term piece of it. I think the short-term piece of it is effectively what's already been done, which is you destroy the nuclear sites and you destroy and eliminate the ability to rebuild the nuclear sites. I think there's a longer-term thing, which is where like a lot of the debate is focused on right now, which is that building a nuclear program is hard, but it's not impossible. And it's expensive, but it's actually not even that expensive if you look at, you could go on YouTube right now and find out how to build an atomic bomb. So part of our Iran policy, and this is where I get frustrated with the people who say you should never negotiate with Iran, part of our Iran policy is like solving the long-term problem. that if we could create the sort of circumstance where Iran would commit not just to not have a nuclear weapon right now, but over the long term to not try to rebuild that capacity, like, yeah, I think that is a good and valuable thing.
If it was your call, would you have done exactly the same thing?
Well, what did the president said publicly that JD was less enthusiastic about it, I think was the exact phrase that he used. I mean, my attitude towards this, man, as you know, is the vice president, I'm not a public commentator. Like, my job is to give the best advice I can to the President of the United States. I think he's said a little bit about what that advice was. But once the president makes a decision, so long as I think that it's, you know, legal and ethical and all that stuff, and I certainly think whether you agree or disagree with it, what we've done has been legal. My attitude towards it is I try to make it as successful as possible. And I've got friends, of course, I think, you know, you've expressed some skepticism of this. I've got a lot of friends, both in private and public, who've expressed skepticism of this, who say, well, this is terrible, we disagree with the decision, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not a public commentator. My approach to this is not to Monday morning quarterback a decision that was made 3 months ago. My approach to it is to try to make it as successful as possible, which is why I've poured my heart and soul into these negotiations, which is why I've tried to make that goal, Iran not having a nuclear weapon, something that's not true both not just now, but is true in the long term. And that's the way that I try to approach it.
So what is going on with Iran where it seems like the president keeps saying that a deal's been reached, negotiations have been successful, and then it all falls apart and we start bombing them again?
Yeah, so how long do we have here? Because this is a long
as much time as you need.
So I have to explain a couple of things in the background so you sort of fully appreciate, people fully appreciate what's going on here. So number one, it's a bit of a simplification, but you have two elements within the Iranian system. You have, and you sometimes hear hawkish Americans say this, that they're all crazy people. They want to bring about, you know, the 12th Imam and the apocalypse and all that stuff. Right. There are people in Iran who believe that. They're also pragmatists. You've got the crazy people and you've got the pragmatists, okay? So when we struck this MOU, and really what the MOU says, and it was misrepresented more than almost anything that I've ever worked on in public life. What it says is Iran is going to open the Strait of Hormuz. The violence is going to stop. And then we're going to negotiate to see if we can come to a broader deal on the long-term nuclear issue. That's what we wanted. And what the Iranians wanted, of course, was long-term economic and sanctions relief. Now, here's the problem with where we are right now. And I guess my summary view, Joe, is that I, of course, can't predict the future. I don't know exactly where this is going to go. But I think fundamentally we are on the right trajectory. It's just going to be really messy, and there's going to be a lot of stops and starts. So what happens? The first week after we sign the MOU, we get 20 million barrels
I'm back. What's up?
A day of oil out of the Strait of Hormuz. That's what it was before the war. The price of oil comes way down. And there are elements, the hardliners in the Iranian system kind of freak out a little bit. They're like, oh, shit. Did we just give away our major
I missed a power chat?
point, screw nuclear weapons. We just gave away the so in this MOU. And so there was this kind of freak out in their system. So they shot at a couple ships. We responded. I think that's entirely appropriate, of course. If they're going to shoot at ships, we are going to shoot at the people who are shooting at the ships, or we're going to destroy the facilities that they're using to shoot at ships. So that happens. Okay, and then the Iranians are like, oh, no, fine. You're right. We shouldn't have been shooting at ships. So then they come back to the table. And there's a few more days of negotiation. And then the phase that they're in right now is the hardliners have really reacted strongly to all the oil that's coming out of the Strait of Hormuz. And they've basically said, we're going to try to shut this thing down. We're scared about losing our leverage. Now, the pragmatists in their system are saying this was a mistake. Let's keep on talking. And again, do I know how this is ultimately going to shake out? Of course I don't. But what we're doing is a delicate diplomatic dance where we're using economic leverage points. We're using carrots.
Yo, LOL. The America First United website is now 404'd. America First United is officially over. Let's freaking go, dude. AFU is officially over. Get freaking owned. Can't even run a website. You can't even run a website. Look at that.
And sticks. We're trying to talk to the pragmatists. And then, of course, when they commit acts of violence, we're responding to it. And all those things are happening simultaneously to get us on a better trajectory.
I made a little chicken wrap,
now,
by the way.
That said, yes, right now there's shooting right now. Last night they shot at some ships.
That's why it took a sec.
But with all that said, is their nuclear program still destroyed? Yes. Are the straits not necessarily fully pre-war traffic, but are we getting enough oil and gas out of the Strait of Hormuz to prevent a worldwide energy crisis?
It's just clocking to me that he's talking about Iran right now. I'm actually interested, and I was like so checked out for a second there. Okay, I am interested in hearing what he has to say about Iran. I just clocked to me that bro is on Iran right now.
Crisis, yes. And all of these things are happening in the context of the broader negotiation over the nuclear program. You never know where this is ultimately going to end up, but that's where we are. And then can I just say one other thing about this? Because there are people, you see Mike Pence, who's sort of a super hawk, my predecessor, who say this. There are people, who are super hawkish in the American system who have attacked the deal and frankly, in some ways have tried to derail the deal. And what I always say to those people is, what is your proposal? What is your actual argument? So just take the Strait of Hormuz, like the narrowest, but in some ways the most important part of this back and forth right now. Strait of Hormuz is a narrow waterway. To the extent you shut it down, you shut down 25% of the world's energy supply, okay? Joe, you could take $100,000 and go buy a bunch of drones on the black market and post yourself on an island in the Strait of Hormuz or near it, and you could fire drones at those ships, okay? Now, what does that mean? Some oil and gas is still going to get out because some ships and some ship captains are going to say, screw you. Now, the United States can help that, right? We can shoot down some of those drones. We can shoot down some of those missiles, and so we can facilitate the flow of traffic. But the people who are like, you cannot negotiate with the Iranians, the reason why that's fundamentally idiotic is because so long as you have some person who's willing to fire off a few cheap drones, you're going to have some ship captains who say, no, we're not willing to do this. So we got to kind of use all tools at our disposal. The military is one tool, but diplomacy is another tool. And I'm very frustrated by the Americans and frankly by people in other countries who are like, you cannot negotiate with the Iranians. Well, then what is your proposal to get people to stop shooting at ships in the Strait of Hormuz? You can bomb them. You can take away their radar. You can take away some of their drones and some of their missiles.
Okay, well, for one, I wonder why they don't want any negotiations. Maybe it has something to do with a certain allegiance. Maybe it has something to do with the type of people that they are. Just like spitballing here, And then on the other hand, it is kind of interesting, especially after Nick's show last night, kind of breaking down the Vance tactic, how he's really like building up his whole negotiations thing. Obviously, this is his play. He wants to be the guy that completes the negotiations, right? So both things are just very interesting there. Isn't it crazy, though, that Nick unironically explains all of this stuff like way better than the vice president? Like, for one, we have literal beef with the vice president. I don't know if anybody in chat will get that reference. but people out there will. We have literal beef with the vice president. And Nick is just like better than him. Like he's just a better orator. He just knows more. He's smarter. Pretty fire.
Missiles, but it's just too easy to fire at ships in the straits. So you've got to actually be willing to talk and to try to figure out the problem.
What is their proposal? The people that think you shouldn't negotiate with Iran.
I think that their proposal is to bomb and bomb and bomb. And the honest view, Joe, is that they do not actually have a solution. If you actually ask them, what do you want us to do? What is the goal that you're trying to achieve? You know, they'll say things like, we'll just bomb them to oblivion. Okay, we can do that. We can drop a lot of bombs, but what does that accomplish if there's still a crazy person who's still unwilling to shoot a few drones at the Strait of Hormuz? What the president has done, I think very, very capably, is said, we're going to use military force in this situation when it's connected to something we're trying to achieve. So if you shoot at ships, we're going to shoot at the facilities at which you used to shoot at the ships. But we're not just going to do something open-ended indefinitely. We're not just going to bomb and bomb and bomb. We're going to try to use our military force as one of the many tools that we have to solve the problem. And obviously, like, I'm biased, but I think that's exactly the right approach. I think you have to read between the lines a little bit, because if you look at what Mike Pence or some of the conservative hawks, like people who voted for us but have been very critical of me, very critical of the administration, if you actually look at what they're proposing, they just want the military campaign to go on forever, and they can't actually identify what it is that they're trying to accomplish. None of them can identify what it is they're trying to accomplish. And I read two things between the lines. I think some of them
you
want
actually
us to
can
accomplish
identify
a
what they're
complete
trying to
change
accomplish because
in the government of
they let
Iran.
it slip every now and then.
And to topple the clerics and to replace those clerics with somebody who's, much friendlier. But like, look, what is our experience with doing that? It's
not
awful.
good.
It's
Yeah.
not good, right? And so, like, if the Iranian people want to rise up and change their government, that's up to them. But we're not going to send 150,000 ground troops in order to accomplish a change in a regime unless the people on the ground themselves want to accomplish that outcome. Now, we're not going to send the troops in regardless, but like to propose sending in the troops, you're basically saying that the U.S. military should do the job for the Iranian people.
Clip that.
We're not in
True.
that business anymore. We're just not. And then I think a second outcome that people are whether they're aware of it or not, is what I call the Libya outcome.
Gulp.
So if you look at the end result of our Libya policy after Gaddafi was killed by the Obama administration, by the way, again, a very stupid decision. What happened? Libya basically turned into a failed state. You had a refugee crisis. You had people pouring into Europe, pouring into other parts of Asia, other parts of Africa. You had a lot of violence, a lot of terrorism come from that. I do think that there are people who would like that to be the outcome in Iran. But then I say, again, what is in our interest? How is it in the United States' interest to have 94 million desperate people flooding into Europe, flooding into the United States, to have, sort of the terrorist infrastructure that can get established when you fan terrorists all over the world? We've run this experiment before. And so our policy right now, what we're trying to accomplish is get the straits open, ensure the free flow of oil and gas, obviously want to keep the Iranians from having a nuclear weapons program, and using the tools of diplomacy and military power to accomplish that.
And Libya failing and the collapse of Libya is a lot of what's fueled the migrant crisis in Europe as well, correct?
Exactly. That in Syria, another failed state that was created by bad...
He keeps gulping, like right into the microphone. It's kind of distracting.
Middle Eastern policy. So there is precedent for the United States doing this. Every time that it has happened, it's caused a refugee crisis, it's caused a spike in terrorism, and it's also, not incidentally, to the moral considerations, it's led to a lot of innocent civilian deaths.
Now, what was the talk
thick
about?
saliva.
I
He's
think
a little
the number
bit
was
nervy.
like $300 billion in concessions to Iran to rebuild. And
yeah, so this is another just bullshit argument that the critics made against the deal. And again, like
He just said bullshit.
Just to back up a little bit, this is my own little hobby horse, but look, the coalition that Donald Trump piloted to the 2024 election campaign, it was a landslide. We won 7 states. It was historic. Nobody, certainly no Republican, had actually led a coalition like that, at least since the days of Ronald Reagan. So like literally before I was alive. Okay. So Donald Trump wins this great coalition. And look, it's got hawks and it's got people who hate foreign wars. Okay. It's got people like you and people like Tucker. It's also got people like Mark Levin and others. Okay. I just accept that as a reality. That's part of the coalition. I don't say that anybody is welcome or unwelcome. I say that if you're willing to sort of help us, you're going to get a lot what you want. You don't get everything that you want. What has really annoyed me about the hawkish side of this thing is they attack any effort to negotiate. They attack the president. They attack me personally. Donald Trump is betraying me. Well, wait a second. If you want to have like a hawkish policy towards Iran, the idea that Donald Trump has betrayed you because he's also trying to negotiate to get a good outcome for the American people is crazy. And so you've seen a lot of these people completely flip on him, and that brings me to the $300 billion point. What we did with the MOU is we actually worked not just with the Iranians, but with the Gulf Arab states.
What is the term MOU?
Memorandum of Understanding. Points. It's the basic structure that we set up for the negotiation. So what happened here is, okay, so people sort of think of the Middle East as like Iran versus Israel. I think a lot of people do. There's also a massive number of Gulf states that are really important, good allies to the United States. You know, they and Israel don't always see eye to eye, but we're obviously very close to both Israel and to the Gulf states. And the Gulf states actually came to us and said, you know what? If the Iranians are really willing to change their behavior, we'd like to invest in rebuilding their country. Now, whether they change their behavior is something that's going to be determined over the long term, right? We want to see real changes. We want to see them to stop funding terrorist organizations. And also, of course, none of that money comes from the United States. But if Iran's biggest enemies in the region are saying, we'd like to invest if they've changed their behavior, would the United States let us? Would we release the sanctions that would make it possible for the UAE and Saudi Arabia and other countries to invest in Iran? Our attitude was, well, isn't that a victory for us? If Iran's biggest enemies see that they have changed themselves so much that they're willing to invest in the Iranian economy, isn't that like the definition of a win-win? And then you had all these people saying, no, you can't give them $300 billion. It's like, we're not talking about giving them $300 billion. We're talking about letting other countries invest in Iran if Iran has changed the way that it treats the Gulf Arab countries. It's fundamentally between them, meaning the Iranians, and the Gulf Arab countries. So there's this line in the MOU that basically says that if Iran meets all of its obligations, then we will permit other countries to invest in Iran. That's it. And that, like, again, the hawks attacked us and misrepresented this and lied about it.
Again, I wonder why the hawks attacked you.
And it's totally fake. It's completely made up.
So true.
And it was done purely in order to politically tank the negotiation. So there's been this interesting dynamic here where, as we've been trying to negotiate, there have been these extraordinarily well-funded efforts to tank the negotiation, to prevent us from reaching a deal, to change American public opinion.
By who, Vance? By who?
Which, by the way, if you look at the public opinion, people love the idea of actually getting to a final resolution on this thing. Americans they're not game for long-term, open-ended regime change wars in the Middle East. They're okay with us using the military to accomplish discrete objectives. They're not okay with open-ended obligations.
What do you think the motivation of the hawks is? Do you think this is, are they influenced by defense contracts?
Yo, apparently Dan Bilzerian is going off on the TL. He's bitching that his, first thing. Throttling my reach is election interference. LOL. You are supposed to be out campaigning for a district of boomers. Elon and Nikita might even be inadvertently helping you, because if they saw how you tweet, they would not be voting for you. So true, Laundry Queen. So incredibly true. Throttling my reach. I don't know, maybe people just like don't really like you that much. Yeah, he's in the replies right here too. Throttling my reach is election interference. I wonder if he's running this fake campaign so that he can say this.